So here we are at the Malibu Command Center. You have two screens which are going to help with your boat operation and the accessories in the boat. And then you have a sport rotary dial, wireless charging up here and down below as well. So let's kind of go over all of that. So the left-hand screen is going to be more for your accessories. So music, lighting, switching bilge pumps on and off, heaters on and off, that sort of thing. So right now we're in the lighting screen. So you can turn your nav and anchor lights on and off here. Your interior lights, which is your white lights that shine down on the cup holders here in the main interior, as well as the LSV logos. Storage light, so that's into the storage compartments. Docking light, so when you press that, that actually makes it so it's high beam mode. And then off, so low beam, high beam, and off. Underwater lights are just an on and off function. And then tower lights, because of your guys' 360 tower option, you have the ability to shine a light forward, backwards, or both forward and backwards. So again, you basically can just turn these on and off with just a push of a button, which is kind of nice. And then it'll light up appropriately on the screen, whatever you're selecting. So forward, back, or forward, and again, you can do high beam docking lights if you wish. Music tab, turning the stereo on, just hit the power button. It'll start up from there, and it will go to whatever source of music you were listening to last. So you can do FM, weather band radio, AM, USB connection in the glove box, as well as aux. If you ever wanted to add satellite radio, you could. Bluetooth audio as well, so you can just stream music from your phone. And this little Android one, it's not for an Android device. It's just this is an Android-based operating system. And you can actually go to the little Android guy up here, and you can actually download apps onto the boat. You need to be connected to a Wi-Fi signal, so either hotspot your phone or actually connect it at home if the cell signal is strong, or if the Wi-Fi signal is strong enough. You could actually download app like Spotify, and you could download a playlist to the boat, and then you're not using your phone to actually play your music, which is pretty cool. So pairing up your phone in the music tab, you want to make sure you hit source, go to Bluetooth, and then either your device will be listed here, and you can connect it that way. You can also just hit pair right here, and then you can pair up a new device right there. So just look for, in this case, Malibu C53E on your phone, and then you can pair it up from there. This page button just brings up the other view. So you can basically take out the listed devices that are paired up with the boat, or make them appear, and then you're able to actually select which one you want to use. Previous track, next track, play the music. This equalizer will bring up your treble, your middle, your bass, and your balance. You can set that up how you'd like. And then the mixer tab, this is where you can go in and adjust the auto volume setting, so how much does the volume turn up or down as you throttle up or slow down the boat. Subwoofer level, tower speaker level, how much you want the music to be playing in the front versus the back. So it gives you a lot of options to kind of customize where the music's being played. You could also hit sync, and that'll basically just sync everything up wherever you have it, just to make everything kind of at the same level. You also have a little mute button here. You can also use the plus and minus right here to raise or lower the volume, or the sport rotary knob, the actual dial itself. You can turn the music up or down with that guy. Then when you're all done, just press the power button, turn the radio off. The other buttons right here, you have your switch panel, which controls manual operation of both bilges, so front and rear, so you have a bilge pump kind of midship, and you also have a bilge towards the transom, back by the engine. It's also where you can turn your heater on. You have a low, a high, and an off function. You have a fixed outlet down at the helm, and then you have two outlets underneath the helm seat, which are hot tubes. So those actually pull out, and you can kind of put those underneath a blanket and kind of stay warm, which is nice. Seat heater. So the helm seat is heated, which is really nice. Again, bilge pumps, front and rear. And then you also have your blower. When you first power up the boat for the first time during the day, the blower will automatically come on. If you're out on the lake floating, you keep the battery switch on and everything like that, you do need to manually come back to the screen to turn the blower on prior to starting the engine. If you have a couple things on, your heater, your seat heater, a blower, something like that, and you hit the off button down here, that will turn everything that you had on off, so you can just quickly turn everything off. We already kind of went over the Android page right here where you can download the apps, which is kind of cool. And then the settings button down here, this is going to allow you to go into the setting menu, system settings. You can go in and see what current version of software you have. What's cool with the new 2020 and 2021 boats is they now have over-the-air updates. So if there is a software update for the boat, we can alert you from our dealership and tell you how you can go in and go on to a Wi-Fi signal and actually download the update to the boat itself. Now, it is a little tricky because the boat has to have a constant source of voltage. But what's nice is with your battery charger, you can kind of plug that in, make sure your batteries are topped off, and keep everything on while you're updating the boat if you ever need to. Backlighting button here. This just changes how the backlighting on your screens are. So if it's how bright do you want it during the day, how dim do you want it during the night, and there's a sensor actually behind the main screen here at the helm. Or you can manually set it up if you want it to stay one set way, kind of at all times. Language, self-explanatory. And then your appearance, this changes the outline. So we have it blue, kind of to match the blue on the outside of the boat, but you could also do silver, gold, red, blue, or white. I think blue is kind of a nice option, but you can kind of select whatever you'd like. In the configuration, this is where you can change the units, so either imperial or metric. You could also customize when you want the depth alarm to go off. Temperature offset, so if the air temperature is slightly off on your main screen or the lake temperature is slightly off, you can go in and you can actually adjust that, because keep in mind the air temperature sensor is actually mounted to the fiberglass, so it does tend to have a false reading, so you can go in and kind of adjust that. And then the lake temperature, you can kind of go in and play with that if needed as well. Time zone, so you can change if the clock's reading wrong or if it's daylight savings time or not. Boat speed and throttle. You can change what the speed source is. Typically you're going to have it in GPS, but if you go to a river or somewhere that has some current, you want to switch it over to paddle wheel, so that way it's getting the boat speed through water, not over ground like GPS. No need to kind of mess with the paddle wheel calibration. That was already done at the factory. It's basically just an offset just to make sure that it matches a GPS speed. And then throttle mode. You do have a sport mode in here, which makes this throttle more sensitive to your inputs. I've found that the standard setting on the throttle is totally fine. Sport mode kind of gets a little jumpy, especially if you're trying to adjust your speed going over waves. You kind of tend to go a little bit faster or slower. It kind of jerks the boat around a little bit. The standard throttle mode is kind of the best in my opinion. Boat model and hull ID. That's kind of all set up right there already. Boat options in here. This is where you can go in, and depending upon the options of the boat, the factory can turn on to have that setting appear in your switch panel menu. So this is where that can be done, and it's already done and ready to go. Power wedge settings. This is basically just the auto wedge feature, so if you are setting up a preset or have a preset for a faster than surfing speed, like wakeboarding for example, it'll automatically put the wedge into lift mode as you're accelerating, and then once you reach a certain speed, it'll actually go to your set position, 1 through 6. So it'll actually just default back to that. It just helps get the boat up on plane quicker. I always just leave this feature on. No need to turn it off. Surf gate transfer settings. You could have a light signal from the tower to alert your rider that it's, you're switching from either left to right or right to left. You can change the surf tone volume. So do you want it to come out of the speakers at, low, medium, or high? And also has some different tones that you can actually go through. Also, if you're ever having a kind of a weird surf gate malfunction or it's just not responding properly, if you hit the begin service mode for Surfgate, that'll kind of deploy the surf gates out and reset the actual rams. After it'll tell you that it's done, and then you can hit end and it should retract them back in. That's a good way to test to make sure it's the rams themselves are getting a signal and kind of reset things, and it should work just fine from there. Start stop settings. This is where you can go in and you can put in your own custom code. It is just a 4-digit code, and the factory default is just 1, 2, 3, 4. You can either disable the code altogether so you don't need a code, or you can change that 1, 2, 3, 4 default code to whatever code you would like. Just make sure you tell your service department when the boat's in for service what your code is, so they don't have to go in and reset everything, because that will reset all of your kind of factory defaults that have already been set up, and then you have to go back and manually set those up. And then last but not least is the radio configuration. This is already set up for the US. And to diagnostics, this is where you can go in and get engine diagnostics, readouts, system diagnostic readouts, so if something's not working properly, see if you've had any engine alarms, assisting with like a debug if it's basically going to sense like what positions the surf gate's in or the wedge is in. Again, this is basically just for assisting a technician for diagnosing what's going on with the boat. That other one, GPS status, we're here in our warehouse right now, so there is no GPS signal, but that's if your speed's not reading for some reason, you can go in and make sure you're actually getting a GPS signal. These are the power modules. Again, more diagnostic area. This is where a technician can go into each one of these modules and see certain inputs or outputs for different accessories on the boat to see if they're reading properly and working properly. And then this will also list any active alarms that are going on. And then connection settings, this is where you can go in and adjust your Bluetooth connection. This is again to your devices that you've set up on here. And also if you want to connect to a Wi-Fi signal, say at your home, or you're hotspotting your phone to download an app or download a over-the-air update for the boat as well. So that's kind of all the settings and operation on the left-hand screen, so it kind of gives you a lot of in-depth ability for a technician to dive in and see what's going on with the boat, but also gives you really clear and easy adjustability with all the options and your heater, lights, and music. Moving up to the main screen, this has all of your actual like boat functions, like you want to actually go boating, set up a preset for surfing, gives you your speed, your ballast tank levels, and everything like that. Kind of a new look compared to the old boat. Gives you kind of around the perimeter, you have your battery voltage, your engine coolant temperature, oil pressure, and you have an oil light which will blink at you if there is no oil pressure in the motor. And those are always going to be there, so it's always a nice quick glance right there. When you're in the water, your depth will appear in the top left right there. The go home button, just like the old boat, basically will empty out all the ballast, turn your preset off, stow the wedge away, put the surf gates away, and turn cruise control off. Docking mode just reduces the sensitivity of the throttle to help you dock if you need it. You have an RPM gauge, which it says RPM right here. And you can also press that to make it read speed instead, which is kind of cool. You always have miles per hour, fuel level right there, and then a digital readout of engine RPM. It's just what you're changing on the actual dial look, if you will. If you want to manually turn on your cruise control, just push the button right here, and then up top it'll say what the set speed is, and then you can go down or up. You also can do the same on the sport rotary dial by pushing up on the dial or pushing down on it to adjust the set speed. And if you want to turn it off, press right there. In our current view right here, you have, 5 different options for the center display. So the left one is your ballast tank view. Preset view is the next one. Depth, cameras, and then just a different gauge setting for the middle. So in the ballast view, you can select tanks individually and say I want it 50%, 0%, fill, drain, whatever you kind of want to do with each tank individually. Or if you don't have any tanks selected, you could go fill all, 50%, and it'll kind of do everything together. In the preset tab, all your presets from the factory are right here. And then as you scroll down, that empty one, you could hit edit, and this is where you go in and you can create your own preset. So you can name it whatever you'd like, select a kind of a cool little logo for it. If you're setting up a surfing preset, do you want to surf on the left or right side of the boat? Or if you're setting up a wakeboard, you could leave it in the center. What speed do you want that preset to be for? Levels of your ballast tanks. Which position do you want the wedge in? Auto volume setting. And then you can kind of finish that from there. Also on the bottom, you could select one of these and you could delete it, copy it, or just load something else onto there. Next screen over, when you are boating, it will kind of show you the lake depth if it's readable. Again, it won't read much past, it won't go super deep or anything like that. You just got to keep in mind if you're not seeing anything on there, it's probably too deep if you know you're in a deep part of the lake. But again, depth will show up right here as well as in the top left corner. Camera settings right here. So you do have a reverse camera on the boat, and you can make this a little bit bigger by hitting the bottom right. Make it smaller again. You also have the docking camera off the front. You can make that bigger if needed. You have some other options on here for a video player, a PDF viewer, or a file transfer. It'll go over that in the owner's manual if you want to actually have video up on the screen here. And then another dial that kind of just will show you a quick glance at oil pressure, coolant temperature, battery voltage, speed, miles per hour, and also your engine hours will be right here as well. So just remember, engine hours are in this dial position right over here. Moving over to the right side, your wedge position, so you can select 1 through 6. You have a lift and stow mode as well. This is also going to be a quick glance at your ballast level, so if you have a different screen other than ballast in the middle, this will be a quick glance to what your ballast levels are over here. Surf gate position that you can select right here. This is your light sensor right there, so you can change that up a little bit if needed. Compass, water temperature, air temperature, and the clock. So that's kind of the main screen. Gives you a lot of boating options and everything like that. The steering wheel, the Malibu steering wheel, can be tilted up and down, just has a little lever on the bottom. You can go up and down right there. Sport rotary dial over to the right side. Again, physical buttons for the surf gate left and right or center. Wedge up and down or stow. And then the sport rotary knob, you can go up to change your set speed if cruise control's on, or decrease the boat speed. Going left, if you have the stereo open, will kind of restart whatever track you're listening to or go to the previous one. Going to the right is the next track. Up with volume, down with volume, and pushing it in will mute the music. To the right of that, phone holder with wireless charging. You do have a USB located right here for charging if needed. Your horn for the boat right there. Power for the screens. Your start-stop button for the engine. Again, you would press this. Your start code would come up just like the last boat. Enter in the start code. Press and hold this in, and then the boat will start up. Underneath, a little storage area. This does have a USB outlet in there as well if you need to charge a device. Power helm seat. So this will go lift the seat up as well as down. Throttle. Just like the old boat, lift up to go forward, lift up and pull back to go into reverse. Your stern thruster control right here. Safety lanyard down here. Make sure this switch is in the up position in order for the engine to run. And your guys' automatic fire extinguisher that's back in the engine compartment, this is its monitor. As long as it's glowing green, it's charged up and ready to go. Another wireless charging pad back here. So you have multiple places where you can charge the phone, which is great. Down below, you have a 12-volt outlet, a little breaker panel, as well as the physical key for the boat. Now keep in mind, you don't need to have the key in or on for the boat to run. If you ever have an issue with your power button, your start-stop button, or anything like that, make sure you hide the key somewhere in the boat. That way this will always get you home. This will always start up the boat just like a traditional ignition. On the helm seat right here, I do have a flip-up bolster where I could sit a little bit higher. You also have the power option, like I showed you, to go up or down, so you can go up a little bit higher rather than using the bolster. You have 2 levers on the side. One of them will allow you to go fore and aft, just like so. And then this other one will allow you to swivel the seat as well. So you can get a nice, comfortable seating position at the helm.